This is Module 2, Part 3 of Foundations of Programming with Python. In programming, keywords and symbols are used to tell a computer to perform actions. While many of these keywords or symbols are apparent, such as the def or define or the plus character for addition, some need further explanation. One of those is the escape character. Programming languages are made up of symbols and characters that have implied meaning. If you need to use a character or symbol without this implied meaning, you need to escape it. What does this mean? So, for example, if we are in our print function that we already know, and we are defining a string that we want to print, and we want to use a character that Python interpreter usually uses for interpreting what is part of code or that is simple for the functioning of the interpreter. One of those is the backslash, and we have to escape it, and the escape character is actually the backslash. Let's spell it correctly, so it's the backslash. And so what this is now doing is, if we're actually printing it, we are telling the interpreter with the escape character to disregard the interpreter internal function for controlling the code of a backslash, but actually print the character backslash in this string. This gets a little bit more apparent if we're actually using the single quote, which we're actually using to limit our string that we want to print. So you would expect, without knowing that this is an escape character, that the string that we're printing out is this, and then there's something weird happening here which shouldn't make any sense. But when we're actually printing it out, this escape character tells the interpreter to use this single quote not as the interpreter function of ending the string that we want to print out, but actually printing out the character. And that's why we're getting this character out here, and this single quote back here actually terminates the string that we want to print out. Another one that we need to escape is actually the double quote. So that we can print this one out. And another of those special characters that we need to escape is the tab. So what we actually can do is, by escape character T, \T, we can print out a tab. So what this means is I'm going to be print tab 2 just for comparison. As you can see, I have a little bit a longer string here in the beginning that I had here, but because I'm using the tab, the \T, using a tab, it actually is tapping it to the same indent. So it is not adding a given number of white spaces, it is actually making going to a tab stop. So this is what this tab actually really means. It is not being replaced by a certain number of white spaces, it is using tab spots. Another character, a special character that uses the escape key is the new line. We can create a new line within a string. So we actually can control within one string, we can control a multi-line appearance of the text, and we can format it appropriately. Now, another important thing to consider is if our Python statements are getting too long, that they would be running out of the end of the screen. This could be, for example, if you're doing a long string, let's say a complete paragraph as a string. If you want to handle this, then this statement would be too long, and you would need to start scrolling sideways in your IDE or in the editor that you're using to create your code. So in order to prevent this, Python has the capability of actually allowing multi-line statements. So of course this works because it's only one line. Now if we would be going with this, we're continuing on the second line, this also works. This works because our statement starting with the bracket, or with the content with the bracket, has not concluded yet. That's why it works. But if we try this print, it's just calling the built-in function print. So if it would let me try with a new file. So let's do this, and now if you want to run it, we need to save it. Continuation. Continue.py. Continue.py. Okay. And it does simply creates a new line because of the print statement. So just the print statement is being executed as you're doing a print, and print ends with a new line character, and then what we have here is a new statement. So this is why this construct does not work. Now if it would be going in here and actually using the backslash, which is an escape, which is the line continuation character, so it's actually overloaded from the escape character, then it actually works, because now this backslash is actually telling the interpreter, okay, we have print, and this tells it the statement continues on the next line. So the new line character that is coming after the backslash is not the indication for the Python interpreter to execute the statement, but to pause the execution and take what is coming in the next line into consideration for this statement as well. as I already mentioned just a couple minutes ago, is that we actually can overload functions. What does this mean? A function or a token or a keyword can have multiple versions. Each version performs a slightly different action, and so I'm going to be demonstrating this with the print statement. So if I'm doing a print demo, then it's printing demo. If I do a print demo times 2, what it actually is doing, it is first manipulating the string in here by doubling it up and then printing it out. Then I can use, so there is actually an execution happening within the call of the print before the print statement is actually printing it out to the console. And then I can do this. So I actually can supply multiple individual strings to the print function. The print function concatenates them and then prints them out. So that is something completely different than here you're supplying one string, here you're supplying two strings. All of a sudden it's not the exact same function anymore, because now it has to deal with two strings. It also works with actually this combo. Oops, putting the proper quotes in there. So it actually still can handle that you're doing some additional function with one of the strings, and it still works this way. Then the print function also has more options that you can use. So I can use a separator, and what this is actually doing is the default separator that is being used if you're using multiple strings is a white space. By defining the separator that you want to use, you are overriding this default, and instead of the white space, this is the separator that you get in here. So this is one thing that you can utilize. And then there is print then we have the separator, and we can add an end character. Which basically terminates the string with this character. And as you can see, we are always using the print function, but we are using a complete different set of arguments for that print function. So it's a simple string. It's a string with an arithmetic operation. Then we have two strings. We have one string with an arithmetic operation plus a second string. Then we have two strings. We are defining a separator. We have two strings defining a separator and an AND character. And all of those work with the same print function. And this is called overloading. So if I have the option of using a print or any function in multiple ways, or any token in multiple ways, this is called overloading. I'm going to be pulling up this definition here on python.org for the print function, and this is the official description of this print function. As you can see, you have multiple objects that is indicated with this star here. So you have multiple objects, then you can have a separator, you have an end, and you can use file and flush as well. So there is even more options that you can use, more arguments that you can use to overload this function even further. This kind of documentation, this is very technical and can be very daunting, especially when you're just starting out with programming. So don't get discouraged by that. Sooner or later it is going to be a handy reference. So for now, remember that you can get lots of other places where you can get help, or just trying out different combinations of options might be enough for what you need to do. So if you need separator or end or flush, and you're not completely sure of what it is actually doing based on this technical documentation, simply try it out. Fire up an idle. Nothing bad can really happen. Fire up an idle and try it out, kind of like we did here. So lab 2 is actually trying this out. So go ahead, try this out, play around with it, experiment a bit with it, and this would be then your lab 2C. This concludes part 3 of module 2 of Foundations of Programming with Python. See you in the next part.